Okay, for tonight's homework, you're going to be in a flipped classroom, and you're going to need your notes page that you got in class, and this video is going to take you through some of the vocabulary and ways to write conditional statements. My name is Mrs. Shalene, if you don't recognize my voice. I'm one of the geometry teachers here at Farmwell. So let's go through some vocabulary and symbols for logic and reasoning. Let's say we have a statement here. If you have a smartphone, then you have Instagram. So this is called a conditional statement, and there are two parts to a conditional statement. You have the hypothesis, usually comes after the word if, and you have a conclusion, normally follows the word then. So our hypothesis in this case would be if you have a smartphone, and our conclusion would be then you have Instagram. So on your notes page, you want to go ahead and fill in the blanks that you need. At any time, feel free to pause the video, and I'm to see if you need more time to write anything in. All right, so there are ways that we can rewrite statements and reword a conditional statement. So the first thing we're going to talk about is negating. So here's our original conditional statement. To negate something, it's either to add in the words not or to take out the words not. So you'll notice in our original conditional statement, we don't have any negative words here. So to negate something, we're going to add in negative words. So for example, if you do not have a smartphone, then you have Instagram. We have just negated our hypothesis. So negation and negate, really the only difference is negation is a noun and negate would be a verb. So there are 4 different ways you can rewrite a conditional statement, and the first way, we have our conditional statement original one here. The first way is using the converse, and that's simply where you're going to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So if you have Instagram, then you have a smartphone. The second way we can reword our conditional statement is called the inverse. In the inverse, we do not switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. We simply negate both of them. So in this case, we would add the phrase do not or don't to both the hypothesis and the conclusion because neither of them have that phrase in there to begin with. So if you do not have a smartphone, then you do not have Instagram. And then the third way is called the contrapositive. And this way actually combines the converse and inverse. So we're going to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion, and we're going to negate both of them. So that would be if you do not have an Instagram, then you do not have a smartphone. So those are the definitions for converse, inverse, and contrapositive. The last way is called the biconditional. And this way not always makes sense to write, but you can rewrite every conditional statement using a biconditional, but it may not be a true sentence. So in this case, the biconditional combines the two, hypothesis and conclusion, and it uses the phrase if and only if. So this would change to you have a smartphone if and only if you have Instagram. And that would be the biconditional. Okay, then we have some symbols, and I do apologize. Our symbols, I don't know why they're not showing up here. But we have this ray going to the right here, and that meaning is if or then. You also can use symbols or you can use variables to represent your statements, so hypothesis and a conclusion, because they can be quite lengthy, so you might not want to write out the entire thing all the time. Then we have this little mark here. That means not. Okay, we're going to see that if that stands for not and your phrase has a not, then you're going to take out the not because that would be like a double negative. And so we're going to look at that later in the video. This should be a little caret sign. You kind of use it for exponents, but it also means and. And then this looks like a V. That meaning is or. And then you should have 3 dots. It looks like the vertices of a triangle. And that meaning is therefore. And then we have this line, the double arrow line, and that is really your biconditional, if and only if. And IFF is just shorthand for if and only if. So those are the symbols that you need to know. Okay, on the back side, we're going to work through writing some of the conditional statements and using some symbols. So what I want you to do is take a look at the statement, if I win, then you don't lose. And I want you to go ahead and see if you can identify the hypothesis and conclusion, negate them, and see if you can write or reword them in the converse, inverse, contrapositive, and biconditional. So go ahead and pause the video, see how much you can do, and then go ahead and hit play again when you're ready to go over. Okay, so the hypothesis would simply be, I win. Conclusion, remember the conclusion follows then, so you don't lose. To negate the hypothesis would be to add in the words don't or not, so I don't win. In this case, our conclusion had the words don't or do not, so we're going to take them out to negate that, so that would be you lose. For our converse, we're going to switch the hypothesis and conclusion, so if you don't lose, then I win. On the inverse, we do not switch anything, we just negate both. So if I don't win, then you lose. And the contrapositive says, if you lose, then I don't win. And remember, that's a mixture of both the converse and the inverse. And then the fourth way to rewrite that would be the biconditional. I win if and only if you lose. Here we have our second conditional statement, and it says, if elephants fly, then fish don't swim. Kind of a weird sentence there, but we're really going to use this to look at the symbolic representations of how to write this. So we're told that P stands for hypothesis. So if I write P, that would be elephants fly. Q, fish don't swim. To negate our hypothesis, again, hypothesis is the letter P, that would be elephants don't fly. However, to negate our conclusion started out with the words don't. So to negate that, we're going to take out the word don't. So we would simply say fish swim. Okay, if Q then P, that would be our converse because we are switching P and Q around. So that would be if fish don't swim, then elephants fly. Okay, this would be our inverse because we see if not P, which is our hypothesis, then not Q, which is our conclusion. So we're not switching them around, we're just negating both of them. That is the inverse. So that would read, if elephants don't fly, then fish swim. And this would be our contrapositive. We notice that Q and the P are switched around and they're both negated. So if fish swim, then elephants don't fly. Okay, this is our symbol that should stand for and, so that would be elephants fly and fish don't swim. Then we have the symbol for or, so that would just be elephants fly or fish don't swim. We have the three dots with the vertices of the triangle, so that would be just, therefore, elephants fly. And then our last one is a symbolic for the biconditional, and that would be elephants fly if and only if fish don't swim. So that's really the basics on how to reword your conditional statements and the symbolic meanings of each of those symbols. And so we're going to be working a lot with those things in class, as well as the Venn diagrams that we worked with in class today. And so you're going to be rewriting things and practicing this all next class. What I want you to do is think about this statement. The statement, if I win, then you don't lose. Let's say that that is a true statement. What would that imply then? And you can post your response to Google Classroom, and it's just a question there, and you're just going to add a comment and see what other things think as well. I will see you tomorrow in class.